Know if there's a procedural matter I missed, that we don't vote on and everything, well, sure Chris never made that mistake. So I'll call us welcome to all of our partners that are with us on, via the computer in line. So I guess the first thing we need to do is take a look at the April minutes are in your packet, available. Anybody have any questions on those April minutes?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Approved and seconded, all in favor, please, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now, Mr. Clemens is not going to be here today, so we have this lovely young lady next to me that's going to cover the treasurer's report real quick.
Well, there isn't a whole lot going on with the Port Authority right now. Only things on you have some interest, on your account, $237.53. You paid, Money House, which is formerly Mary Scott's office for, accounting. And then Evergy for the signage out there was $37.75. And then your QuickBooks subscription, $15 a month. So that's pretty much it.
Wasn't there, at some point, didn't I have to sign for a mowing job, or did that get covered last month?
No, Lisa's gonna go over that. That's the contract for the,
Yes.
Okay,
for those
just
things.
so everybody knows, they asked me for my signature, I gave that. So
Yeah.
anything hiding anything. Okay, all in favor of the financial report as it was presented,
Aye.
Aye.
or I guess.
Next one, make a motion.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second it, yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then Lisa, I guess it's your turn.
Right page. Oh, actually, we're doing the budget first, so yes. I have submitted to the officers last week and then a correction. I hope you guys saw the correction. The 25 draft budget from the Port Authority for 2025. I am prepared to ask any questions. I had also sent 2024's budget so that you can compare. My biggest question is, the operating expenses are pretty, easy to understand why those are there. We did increase, a little bit for the LCDC, staff and marketing and rent. It's increased by the same amount that the municipal request for the municipalities increased. So the same amount. So that's where the growth is. But down below, the program funds, I copied what you all wanted from last year. Is that what you would like to continue? I mean, just any comments or questions I'm ready to answer.
Well, I for one think if there was, obviously, it totally depends on the county to fund that. Those items that we've listed are items that this county as a whole, all of us together need to be doing. And marketing, we don't market much, really, outside of LCDC's little bit of what you do. Really the study for the industrial part, we have a committee working on that as we speak. Once we get land and identify all those things, it probably would not be a bad idea to invest in a study. We may have to take that out of cash or not, but to make sure that we appropriately provide guidance. I think we all think we know what we're doing, but get somebody out there that's professional. So I, for one, all those we need. And labor study, obviously, that's used constantly. So there's nothing on there that we don't. But I think it's fluff. It's just things that we ought to be doing for the
So this
betterment of the county.
this was on there last year?
Those program funds, yes.
Did we get it, or did they say no, come back next year?
No, they just gave us the amount that the Port Authority asked for the operating expenses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, were they saying we would do 50? I mean, this is a big ask. It seems like, were they gonna, do we have a sense to, would they do 100? And then we gotta decide what to use it, or it's all or nothing.
One thing that Chris is pointing out, and consistency has its place. As I can't imagine any of those items coming off the list too. I agree, it's a big ask, but it's things that's part of the responsibility or part of the mission, of this committee. So as we begin to pull stuff off, is that indicating that we are weakening our stance, weakening our position?
Well, to me, something's better than nothing.
Right. So if we leave it on and they don't act on it, at least they know that we're still consistently saying, this is what we need to do for the county. This is what we need to do. So I would advise not to change the list.
You know, with my time on the committee, I've always thought that it wasn't really, we didn't ask for the moon and then accept, something smaller. We literally put down for the most part, bare bones.
Right.
I know how tough it is for finances, for county and everything. So I hope they see that we're not jerking our chain, but we absolutely need to have these sort of things.
No, I agree with that. I just say, is there some middle ground there of something that they think we might be able to do? Or they have funds in some other account, we can talk to them after the fact.
Well, can they, you're asking like, could they do a line item? Could, they'll give you your operating expenses and then they'll do, one or two of the.
Well, anything's better than nothing. I mean, we gotta start somewhere. If this is our ask and we're getting zero. I agree, ask for what you want, but we're not getting anything.
I like what Jeremy said. I didn't even dawn on me. Maybe the commissioners will be willing to do maybe a line item. But I know from what I have been hearing recently, their budget is awfully tight as well.
I'm sure, yeah.
And then if they do a line item, then they're picking and choosing which item it is that,
Well, yeah.
yeah.
So one thought on this, obviously, we were asked last budget process to take a look at outside funding in different ways, and the committee is doing that as we speak. And if you start thinking in general about what kind of a budget, what would a budget look like if we had funding that was independent and approved by voters and all those things, what would it look like? It would look very similar to this, plus, this is my opinion, doesn't mean that it's right, but it looks similar to this, plus for an industrial park. And that industrial park would be, we don't know yet, but it would be something that the industrial park committee is looking at, so you would put all those together. And so I think it's a very reasonable budget, and if you go out and look at what we compete with in other counties, they're higher than this by a mile. So I don't think we're out of line, I just don't know how to.
No, I'm not saying we're out of line, I'm just saying,
Yeah, and I
you're
agree
preaching to the choir to me, so.
which one do we ask for, or
Right.
we just throw it out, and is there one? I
Well,
know
I'm
we
saying,
use that.
do we have any recourse going back after they say, no, we can't have any of this? Is there a next step to say, okay, what can we do? Is it, or is it?
Well, and are these program funds, are they in like our order of preference?
I don't remember that
I
being
don't think
discussed.
so.
I think it's just,
And I mean, would it be of any benefit to put them in an order of preference? Or is there any explanation that goes along with these?
I'd like to believe they're going to do a line item detail, whatever you want to call it, but at least reach out to the committee and say, okay, which ones to not accept, or they're just gonna give us dollar figure, and we're gonna figure it out.
One of the challenges that we had when that list was put together was exactly what you're saying. Which one do we value more than the other? And we tried to stay as vanilla as possible so that they would have to make, give us the money or not give us money, but it's just too hard to go through and itemize them. And my thoughts was just stay vanilla. This is what we need. This is what we'd like to have.
Hey, Mary. Can you pull up the chat?
Huh?
Can you pull up the chat? Somebody's on it.
We'll chat.
Up top.
there,
Well, but all these points are valid too, and we need to think about that as we move forward too with the education program. Asking for, bond issue or something like that, we need to keep people aware of that, we're not changing how we do things.
Right.
We're just asking about bond issue, so somewhere down the line, that money's be able to fill that part,
Right.
once we identify it.
oh, yeah.
It's not gonna happen all at once.
Yes. Right.
Minus.
Vicky, you got any comments on what we should ask for?
I can't comment on that.
Chicken.
So I can get by saying that.
Yeah, you can. You can.
Anybody else? Any comments?
Well, yeah, I think it's a good discussion. I appreciate it, everybody in here. I think at the end, that none of us benefit from that. It's all benefiting the county. So if we can ever figure out a way to get it really put some teeth into the economic development, it would really be interesting to see how good we could do.
What is your definition of teeth into economic development?
Well, what are we seeing in growth in job production? Talking high paying jobs, that's the only reason I think we're here.
Yeah.
Where are we seeing in the county? Yeah. We're seeing a lot of retail growth, we see a lot of residential growth. That's wonderful and it's good stuff. But that's not what I think this group is for. This group's intent is to create tax base, large tax base and large jobs. And I don't know that we are doing that as equally as our partners, are not our partners, I guess we call them competitors. In Johnson County, Wyandotte County, Jackson County. Consider anything, Missouri. But Douglas County, we're just not seeing I think we see growth with residential, but from my perspective on the city, I would rather not put the burden on houses. I'd rather put tax burden on industrial space, create jobs that are wage bearing, that my kids can work in Leavenworth County, not drive to Johnson County, because that's where their job is. So that's what I think. Now, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my perspective.
And part of that, those teeth or tooth, whatever, whichever we want to use it, is that amazing Tonganoxie part. I mean, look at the jobs it is bringing. We don't know how much more room we have left, but do we have other companies? That's what I think, that's what I look at when I talk about teeth, into the economic development. Sure, Basil's gonna continue to grow. We know that because of where it's located. It can't help. But it's growing by stores that are retail in nature, not necessarily the high-end, high-paying jobs.
Well, since I've been on the committee, that was part of, we have incentives available,
Right.
to encourage companies to come, and we're very cautious with the land that we have left, which is not that often. So which lots and what they go for, and we don't mean to discriminate against anybody in that particular zone, but we have to be cognizant of the fact they go right behind us and buy some land from Lynch for full price. So if they aren't offering an economic base that can help increase that, everything they've already covered, there's no reason to sell those lots at a discount.
Yeah.
Just to get rid of it.
And just to go back, those companies that are moving in Basel is contributing to the county tax base. And those companies are coming in with incentives. They're saying they want to be in Leavenworth County. So how do we make Leavenworth County, a magnet to bring in bigger companies? I mean, sure, you start small and bigger companies begin to see more and more what's happening in Basel because it's so close to everything. And then they begin to look out at, okay, well, what else is out there? We gotta figure out ways, from our advertisements, from our communications, to get folks to start looking at Leavenworth County. And looking at Leavenworth County, the population that's gonna be looking at them the heaviest, the largest population is Wyandotte County, Johnson County, counties that are close to the southern edge of Leavenworth County. That's not campaign speaking.
What's your perspective? I appreciate the question. What's your perspective of economic development?
I asked the question, but I don't. No, I was just saying, so you mentioned teeth and to me, that involves like incentives, I mean, the not so secret, dirty secret of economic development is that it's essentially a race to the bottom. Right? So how much can we incentivize, meaning how much can we take off somebody else's plate in terms of cost, into the said, right? The lieutenant governor said that as much and he's, And so I didn't know what this organization, I still don't really know what this county is willing to do or wants to do or can do in regards to all of that. At a certain point, if we want to grow, everything that's been said here is correct. Like we need to increase the tax base outside of veteran communities. If we want to grow, if we want to become something better, we have to increase the tax base. We don't have a large enough tax base to get. Maybe Crystal will correct me, or you might correct me too, Brian, like. Baser can continue to grow and still be a veteran community, right? But is there desire? And is there a path for us to grow beyond essentially 4 veteran communities? With all due respect to Leavenworth and Penny.
I think one great example is what happened in Tongi. I mean, that was land that was just there. And as the land began to be developed, we saw more and more interest. The more times that we can get people to step a foot in Leavenworth County, the more opportunities I think we have for growth. Now, as Chris has said, you know, we do have a committee out there that's looking at land, and I'm not sure how much more land, I don't know where the committee's at right now, but I do believe that those are some of the ways. I know it's baby steps, but at least it's making people look. Wind that county ends at 139th Street, I want to say that.
Right.
They're building out as far as they can, they're laying sidewalks out, they're doing those kind of things. But at some point, they have to stop, and people are gonna begin to look at Leavenworth County. Gonna begin to do that. And then we don't have a whole lot of commercial land in Leavenworth City, I'm sorry, Baser City.
Right.
But we gotta start somewhere, and if it means that going out to Lansing is the next place. One of the things that this committee did was looked at extending the sewer system in Lansing out at least to McIntyre. The county commissioner said that's a good thing. The vote was kind of a positive vote, but the county commissioner said it's a good thing, because they're still looking at the economic development. Again, why that county's coming out so far, but if we could find more areas like what we did at an amazing park in Tongi, we're gonna get there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that. If you take the metro, you've seen growth start up here at the state line and it's worked its way around, and I think we're next on the chopping block. But, and we should have industrial space, and we have some industrial space, but where is it located? How do we compile 200, 300, 400 acres, and who's got the money?
Well, and you've been here when we discussed it, and I'll always hammer that point. We gotta remember the business park right next to us was given to us.
Yeah.
All those years ago, when back when this committee was just starting, nobody's gonna give us 80 or 100 acres of land.
Well, I was just commenting, you know, sometimes these opportunities do arise. Sometimes the state comes up with some funds, or a federal situation, or that kind of situation. So if you're not ready with a plan, then you lose out on that opportunity.
Been on this committee for almost 10 years now. Wow. And I remember way back then, beginning to talk about, let's look at more land now, when it was cheaper. We're getting there, but those opportunities that we might have missed by us being slow, purposely focusing on trying to get something done. So.
Well, I mentioned for years too, the highway we have between here and Atchison was because we laid the groundwork, and not we, but the groundwork was laid, it was sitting on a shelf. And all of a sudden we had some people leaving office, and they were gifted the opportunity, so that it happened. You know, it wasn't like it was high on the Kansas priority list, but federally they got the money, so we made it happen.
And all these things we're talking about are the things that's on that list.
Well, I would make a motion, we approve the budget as presented, and if, secondly, when it's time to present, we can go see if there's maybe a line or two on there that they don't want to do the whole thing, which I understand they probably can't. because of their budget. But can we pick off something that would work and all, because everything on there we could utilize and do.
Well, some of these things, I mean, really could be used by Tom as well.
Oh, yeah, that was,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Oh, we have a motion on paper, we have a second.
A second.
All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Lisa, when you submit that tomorrow, Mr. Lawfrey, would you make sure to request that we be notified when they're going to discuss this? So that we can have someone present?
Yeah.
Because we were criticized last year because we didn't show up.
Can we all do, I mean, let's go as a group and.
Yeah, we can.
And I guarantee
yeah, it
you,
was 2 years before that.
Year before.
Yeah, last year I showed up. Lisa.
Mary got my email address, so I'll be able to make sure I can stay abreast with everybody.
All right, well, Greg, I guess it's your turn. Transportation study. Transportation study. I talked a little bit about the MARC E2P study that, they were taking applications for that. Maximum of a $200,000 study, 80-20 split. I've talked with Bill Knoll a little bit because the western bypass, 158th Street, whatever you want to call it, was one project that was mentioned. And then also a pathway or some highway to Panasonic, kind of from the Tonganoxie area. When we talked, Bill thought, and I tend to agree with him, if a western bypass or 158th Street is gonna happen, it's gotta start at I-70 and go north. You're not gonna start at Leavenworth and go south. So with that in mind, KTA is the one that's gonna have to be the lead party on that. Now, does KTA really, are they gonna look at a MARC study and say, oh yeah, we're gonna take that and that's what we think we need? Probably not. So you could say, okay, well, maybe Baser, something Baser would wanna look at. But, you know, for $40,000, I think the county would split it with Baser 20 and 20. And I think, Bill did reach out to Leslie. I don't know that he ever heard anything back. Maybe Vernon knows something. But I don't know if it's worth, if that's money well spent for the county or for Baser. That's kind of.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is on target. We need to have access points to get, again, people into Leavenworth County. That would be a great spot, but I have not spoken to Leslie in almost 2 weeks, so I have no idea, haven't spoken to Tom or Bill either, but that's one of those things that, again, you kind of have to go from the south to the north, you just kind of, you kind of have to, and I truly believe, after spending 12 years down at MARC, that they're gonna understand. I think I said last time that they go from inside to out. So that's another way for them to be able to see, hey, look, we're reaching out to you guys. Reach out to us. Spend some money this way.
But are we better to take that money and put it towards the project with KTA? Instead of putting it towards a study that KTA is gonna throw up on the shelf?
Yeah.
I mean, we probably need to be talking to KTA.
Yeah.
And see what do you guys want? And my guess is they're gonna wanna do their own study.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that's at. So I think unless Baser had a strong interest in doing it, I don't think we'll probably do anything on that.
We could provide a letter of support should Baser choose to do that.
Yeah, sure.
When I have not, as I said, I have not been in conversation with Leslie and then even then our conversations were not brief, so I'm not sure where she's at on that. But I'll be more than glad to talk to her. I think tomorrow city council, I'll be more than glad to talk to her and ask her.
You might mention it and just see if
Yeah.
there's any interest.
Yeah,
And like I said, if there is, Bill said he didn't have a problem going to the commissioners and see if they'd split it.
yeah.
But again, what do we get out of it?
Yeah.
Okay, we get a study, yeah, it makes sense, it's gonna be needed. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't charge anything, I just told you that. But you can give me $10 if you want.
Even though I'm the outgoing chair, I still have some kind of influence on some of the.
You can get his wallet out.
Yeah. And some of the, empty.
Just hand it over.
Empty, you know, maybe on, I might have some influence with some of the makers and shakers. is all I should say.
Well, strategically, that's right along with what we were talking about, and will be talking about for another couple of years. We get something off I-70, that's another set of land that's available, yeah, because that is a big, that's a big issue, is make sure the industrial park. And again, from Tonganoxie to Sonic, it makes more sense probably to go from, Panasonic up to K10 and start going north. And you're probably not gonna start at Tonganoxie and go south and not having where that it goes to. Well, and all the push is still from east-west routes, we do that instead of north-south, so.
Right.
It's an uphill climb, and how much weight is KDOT gonna put into the mark study to a P2P study? I don't know. So that's kind of where we're at with that. That's all I have to report on that. Thank you very much, Rick. Listen, before we get on to the industrial site committee, I need to circle back to Lisa. She didn't get this, her project leads. I apologize.
And I have one more action item, a budget, I wanted to see what you guys think about continuing with T3 site works, which is our maintenance. They do the lawn mowing in both, the Gary Carlson and the Urban Hess Business Park. If you look from 2024, it's just a slight increase. But in 2025, there'll be a slight increase, but I think for those of you who know what it costs to do that work, it's pretty minimal, and he's very reliable. Do you want to stick with T3 site works? So for 2025, it's going to be 6,400. So let me read you. I didn't prepare as well. Let's see, 3 invoices. Okay. Let's see, this says 3 invoices at the Gary Carlson Business Park at 1,100 per mow, totaling 3,300. This includes bi-weekly ROW right-of-way mowing and 3 brush hogs bi-monthly of the fields. Then for the Urban Hess Business Park, 2 invoices, 1,200 per mowing, totaling $2,400. This includes bi-weekly right-of-way mowing and 2 brush hogs of the fields. Or 3 invoices of the same to keep people from complaining.
Well, I think it's incumbent on us to take care of our
Yeah, I
parks.
think we have to.
Okay,
And, a lot of it's just grass, but.
Right.
We don't want it, so.
So are we brush hogging the whole field? 3 times?
yes, at one time that we used to have somebody that would come in and do the hay. whatever.
Yeah.
But they have since, they're no longer doing that anymore. So
That's what-
we've taken on.
And whenever we've had even 5 acres of land or more, we've always just worked with someone who bails it and we basically trade out services. I mean, is that something to consider, or is it better to have it cut down so people can see the whole site?
And that's what they were doing. They was trading the brush. hog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were doing that, but they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
If we find somebody to do it, that would be the best, I would think. But that would only be one time a year when they mowed the
Right,
grass
Right.
and baled it.
And then if you're trying to show the site, and there's 24 inches of grass.
Seems to me to be mowing it would be better.
Well, since we don't have somebody right now willing to
Yeah.
take on a bid, it's
Do this again we did last year.
I agree.
Want to take a vote?
got a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the TC
Site work.
landscaping, yeah.
Okay,
Motion second, all in favor?
okay, great.
Any opposed?
Thank you. And then I have a very short report today. The last couple of months, March and April were just really active projects wise. I think we had 8 leads in March and 8 in April. And so it seems to have slowed down. That typically happens right before the summer and then again right around holidays. So it's kind of a cyclical type thing. Business, let's see, we have on this projects and leads, we have 1 that has come in for May. This was a client looking for 500,000 square feet for an existing building. Of course, we didn't have that. I recorded that. And speaking of that, I do not have currently the newest, most updated building request chart on there. I will get that on. I just have let that slide and I needed to update it and get it put into the projects and leads. It will be on next month. But you do have a copy in your packet. I'm not sure if I gave you one, but it's an updated chart that we're just keeping track of people that request existing buildings and what size, so that if there was ever a chance that we would talk about potentially building a building, we would know, and we would have some data to make decisions. So anyway, moving on. The only thing I want to mention as far as existing projects, Project River continues to be active. This is a client interested in 50 to 100 acres, not just in the southern part, but anywhere in the county, for an energy plant. We're still working with the state, and the state has now submitted their incentive proposal. They're considering that. And then they're also working with at least one realtor that we know of to look for a site. The other one is Project SOAR, and I probably leave that to George. All I know is it's still active and that they are in the second extension for that project. So it is still active, just a lot of times these projects will go quiet for a while as they consider and make decisions. Other than that, I've just done a couple of things. I went to a conference called SEDC Meet the Consultants. Very interesting. A lot of the sessions were presented by site selectors. The same topics that keep coming up in all of them. So it's just a nationwide issue. Is workforce is the biggest issue. They're coming up with things like daycare, getting enough daycare for workers so that they can come to work is an issue. They had an interesting case study. A gentleman presented there is a business park in Clarksville, Tennessee. They have built a childcare facility in the business park. Somehow that was a public-private partnership, and then they're able to give subsidized slots to the employees of the businesses in the business park. Very interesting. I'm going to learn more about it, but I do think that that's a heavy lift. I mean, you think about the liability alone, it's a lot that a lot of people don't want to take on, which, you know, it's a lot. So, but it's an interesting case study that I'll learn more about. Attended Crew KC events twice this year. That's the commercial real estate for women professional organization. Well, it is not for women, but it's still in the title. But it's mostly women. And I went to a luncheon and then also did a tour of the Rock Island Bridge. Very interesting. These are opportunities for me to get to know some of those developers and site selectors and real estate agents there in the Kansas City region. And then attended a KCADC second quarter investor access event, which Josh went with me on that. Do you have any comments about it from your perspective?
No, I mean, it was an interesting, rah-rah type of conversation, which was good. I guess the point of those things, so.
Yeah, kind of hey, these are the projects we're working on. Here's what we're looking at. Here are the new investors. But it also gives you another opportunity to meet some of those people in the Kansas City area and keep trying to gain interest in our community. And then other than that, I've just been working on budgets for the LCDC and for the Port Authority and preparing those funding requests for each of the 4 cities and for the county now from the Port Authority. I think unless you have questions, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate, I know how much work you've had the last 6 weeks, so I
Thank
appreciate that. All right, moving on, Industrial Site Committee.
I'm on that, but we canceled the last one. We had
Yes.
one. Is it Friday?
No.
It's on the calendar. right?
No, but Harlan and Darren and I are gonna meet, we're gonna kind of regroup. What we're going to do is we're going to bring together the existing scoring criteria that the committee has kind of discussed for a long time. We're gonna use some information once he's had a pretty heavy task to gather up all get a map together with an overlay that shows all the properties over 160 acres, and we'll use some knowledge from some people that might know some of those families that might own, adjacent properties, and then we'll sift those, do an initial sift of those through the scoring criteria. And that'll just be a small group. Then we'll use the entire committee that will come together and score the final properties, and we'll go from there. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
So we have that map sitting right here.
Yeah.
I understand that he's gonna work with Tavian to kind of get the familial connection, but like what time frame are we? Are we looking at this? Because.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want the grass to grow beneath the feet.
Right, exactly. And so there's some other overlays. It's not just these, we got some overlays like how close they are to the power infrastructure, how close they are to gas, to water, to city, urban, the growth areas, that kind of thing. So he's kind of combining all of that. I would say that probably in the summer sometime. That's the best I can do right now.
Well, some of the overlays, we went through, and I think you get some of that, I don't remember. But we also started to limit for transportation purposes. So we have ranges off of highways, K7, obviously 70, 2440. And I don't want to say we eliminated, but the likelihood of something developing north of Easton, it would be pretty difficult because there's nothing up there for power or sewer or water or anything for transportation. So we put some criteria in on that. So I think when Tom was gonna funnel all that into his groups, GIS group, and start to whittle it down so we can get into a manageable, less than 100 units.
Sure.
And it probably will be.
Well, I think this dovetails into the idea of the bond issues, that we're gonna look at over the next year. We need to be able to educate the people that we're gonna try to educate about that by having a piece of land. This is what we're looking at, and why. We need to convince them. I mean, it's gonna be a tough vote. So the more information we have, the better suited people.
Trying to prioritize water, sewer, highway, transportation, technology wasn't as high, I mean, eventually. But trying to get those things lined up, and then how far away from a physical transportation route, and I think we're pretty close on that. So I would guess somewhere too.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
So, and forgive me, we started talking about the industrial site committee probably about the time I came on, and I was drinking from the fire hose, so I've got my feet underneath me. What does the process of getting public support look like for the industrial site committee? Like, how do we then say, this is what we want to do? And you were talking about bond issues.
I would say that it's the task of the committee, the Industrial Site Vision Committee, to recommend a site. We're using all these experts and information and data and making a recommendation. It will be up to the communities whether or not they want to pursue this.
And part of that strategy might be using elected officials like me, to build it up, or business owners to build it up. So I don't know if there's a one specific type of strategy, but it's gonna be a big load. It's gonna take a whole lot of communication. It's gonna take a lot of dedication. And we're gonna use newspapers.
So, for instance, there's a great site right outside of Basin. For instance, is the committee only coming to the Basin City Council and saying, hey, look, this will be?
No, because this is a statewide, this is a countywide.
We would go, I mean, my perspective, and having done this in the past, we would go to Baser first. If it's in Baser or near Baser, would have to say we're interested. If they said, no, we're gonna nix it. And I consider, then we go to the county and present the same data, and then hopefully get countywide buy-in from all the other cities, wherever it lands.
I might be cast aside to go to Easton, even though I'm from Baser. We have to not operate in our silos and just look at the whole thing as, this is what's best for the county. When I'm down at market, I'm talking to people at the Mid-American Regional Council, I'm not talking to them about Basic, I'm talking to them about the county. This is where we're at. So it gets down there and they hear that, the other county commissioners and the other elected officials, they hear it. So it is something that's going to be real public, but we have to make sure that we are working as a unit. And me and Chris might end up also place together, who knows?
Well, I think there's an opportunity for more than one.
Mhm.
It would be awesome to have 4 or 5. How many gazillion dollars do we need? How much, what is realistic?
It'll probably be 4 or 5 recommendations.
Yep.
I don't think we're just gonna have one recommendation. I think there'll be multiple recommendations. And then kind of flush out where the interest is or where the support is.
Cause it's gonna be a heavy lift. I mean, there's no question about that. Because if you do get the land secured, who owns it? How do you own it? Which way do we go? How do you develop it? How do you promote it? But we gotta start somewhere, and this is the very beginning, so we're early on it. Good question.
I would say grassroots kind of perspective, but I think we'll get there.
Oh,
We got no choice.
Yeah, we have to. Well, remember when the county did the 1% sales tax for roads? And then it passed, and then it passed again. So that kind of strategy, I think, is what we're gonna have to look at as well. That was what, a 20-year? Anyway, it passed.
Well, and given the price of what land is, it's obvious even if we're successful with the bond issue, that's not gonna be enough to buy all the land and with much less improve it. You know, so, this is long-term, we're gonna convince the people of the county that it is a worthwhile project. And necessary project for all the reasons we discussed earlier with regard to tax base. It's gonna be a big, get started paying taxes on their houses. Going up, so. Hey, great discussion, but there are no dumb questions. Trust me, I've asked them all and everybody's been gracious to
That's
answer.
not comforting, that means that you asked your allotted number of questions and.
No.
Cutting you off, that's fine.
You ask all you want, because that's what I did. It's the only way that, I got answers to them, because I didn't know. So you asked all the questions you want.
And part of the responses you're getting is coming from a myriad of experiences here, because we probably had that question asked in a different form, and we had to think about it, so.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I promise next month I will not have nearly as many questions, so.
no, don't just wait till we ask for
See,
about a
it may-
gazillion dollars from.
Yeah, don't.
Good.
Well, let's talk about that. So we do the budget this year, so.
All right, the Panasonic impact, who's on that? Anybody?
Future funding.
Yeah,
Oh, future funding, sorry, I missed that.
Future funding.
Let me see your bill.
Let's see.
Have we set up a Venmo yet? Can we-
There's nothing in it.
The committee did have a meeting about 2 weeks ago. We're still in the process of getting the right members on the committee. And we have been exploring different options as the county has requested. There's nothing set in concrete. But we're probably will meet again sometime in July is my guess. I don't know, we're gonna meet every month right now, but the next meeting is scheduled for sometime in July. So I think that's all I have at this point.
Just for everybody's reference, I think we've all been here, that comes down to the fact that the county has tasked us with coming up with funding for this committee on our own if possible. So we're looking at avenues. Thank you, appreciate it, Greg. Panasonic impact? Let's get that.
I don't know if I'm the official spokesperson, but the last meeting with the Panasonic put on, I attended with Tom. I think I talked about this probably 1 or 2 meetings ago, because that's how long it's been since there's been anything official. And that was the one that really, Tom and I figured out pretty quickly, was really aimed towards local vendors. And really not a whole lot of benefit to this group. great if you're in a food truck or cleaning service. And the one thing that they did say then that has happened is they started putting out a quarterly newsletter about just updating their progress. And I've received one, maybe two at this point, so, you know, if anyone's interested, I'm sure you can go find it, or I can send you a link. Aside from that, I haven't heard anything more about the state of Kansas driven meetings.
No, I have not either.
Go ahead, Rick.
We okay to move on? I was gonna ask you.
Well, the only thing I was gonna add is many of us attended to be with Panasonic in 2 months, and it was fantastic.
Oh, the LCDC.
The LTDC.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
yeah.
what you wanted. It's absolutely brilliant. That was more information that I'd gotten out of the news and everything, and it was very informative. I encourage everybody to get an opportunity to attend one of those. I think we all learn more about Panasonic every time we attend one of those meetings. Anything more on Panasonic? I do see it.
I was gonna let Diana talk about the article.
Oh, there's really, I mean, obviously it went out, everybody's seen it. I was just gonna let you know, everyone was interested in having a digital copy. It is not yet available. I checked in with the Times. They will put it on their website under the special sections on the homepage. So it'll be up there with the Weston Visitor's Guide and the Best of Leavenworth. And then there'll be Progress 2024 once they have it up there. That's how it'll be accessible digitally. And I can send out a link whenever it finally appears. That's all it's gonna tell you.
Very well done. The whole thing is very well done. Your particular portion of it. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else before we move out to our affiliated partners?
I have one, I don't know if you wanted to bring it up, Chris, or not, the kind of review of the statutes.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I can. That was part of, the conversation about going out into looking for funding and alternatives for economic development in the county. As I discussed, maybe a meeting or two ago, is that to make sure that we are doing it correctly. So are we properly structured within the state?
Okay.
Are we, do we have the right documentation in place? Are we doing it correctly? Getting legal advice as to make sure that we do that. And we reached out, if you recall, a few years ago, the board approved 2 attorneys, outside attorneys, to help us with contracts and real estate and different things. And so I reached out to Tim Gerard, who we used on 2 or 3 different real estate deals, and Lisa's worked with him. And asked if their firm would consider giving us a little bit of consulting to make sure that, first of all, we're doing things correctly, that we are properly structured, and I'm sure we are. But I really, in my mind, being a banker, you want to do things right up front, so we're not questioned halfway into a process. Somebody questions that we're not even structured correctly. I just don't want to be in that. Well, first of all, we'd be wasting a lot of people's energy and time. So he's agreed to do that. We just have to tell him what we want to review the statute. Are we doing the right things? Are we planning correctly? What else should we be doing? Because we've done this for 40 some odd years and or about 50 years, and we really, are we doing it correct? And that's just me being ultra conservative. I don't like spending money just to spend money, but I also know that if we're down to the 11th hour in an election and somebody pulls up that you can't do this. Well, we just burned a lot of bridges and ruined a lot of people's time and effort. So.
So we need to authorize an amount to spend, is that?
I don't really know how to go about doing that, because I think the first thing we would do is have to make a list of what we want to review. Are we properly structured? Look at, because I think the last thing we did through the county and through the city of Leavenworth was back in 2017, 16, 19, something like that.
For me.
To authorize putting a Tonganoxie, a Baser, and a Lansing rep on the board of the Port Authority. And the county and the city jointly resolve to do that. And But when's the last time somebody looked at the statute and has the statute changed? So I'm not sure what to say, Greg, maybe a $5,000 limit, but I don't know what that means. I really, really don't. And I don't want to open checkbook to any attorney, no offense to attorneys. And we may have one in here.
Well, I guess kind of the three things that I would like to know is, one, are we set up properly according to statutes? Two, are we operating properly? Are we doing all the things we're supposed to be doing as far as reports, strategic plans, whatever? And three, what are our opportunities for funding?
And what legally can we do?
And probably those are the three things that I'm most interested in, and I would definitely, be in favor of, a motion maybe of, I don't know, maybe start off with $2,500 or something, and if it's gonna be more than that, let us know.
Well, I think we need to talk to the attorney and say, is this something you can do in 8 hours, 10 hours, 2 weeks? Come back next month with kind of a, I don't know, maybe an estimate.
I think you have trouble finding information anyway, because, there's only two port authorities in the state of Kansas. And the other one, the information I've got, doesn't work in the same way we do.
Right.
So,
The statute gets amended periodically. You can find it on the state legislature's website. I've looked at it. I want to say it was amended within the last 5
They can
years.
figure that out pretty easily, I would think,
Yes.
so.
I just hate to wait another month.
Yeah, well, no, I
Other
agree,
than a
but
time-
send it out,
So that,
why don't you talk to him, send it out to the board and we can.
well, I think we've got to hold a meeting though to vote on. We can't vote by email.
Yeah, I think we should, if we need.
What about-
Let's just authorize up to an amount then.
That's what I want to do.
So you could authorize, present the 3 questions and say, as a fourth, what else do you recommend? And that could be discussed next
Yeah.
month. And then, like you say, put an initial cap on an amount, and then again,
And maybe if he can only do 2 of them for that amount, that gets him started at least.
Yeah.
If you want,
Well, I would sure like to have a written document that we can rely on that say we're doing this right. Are we operating
Right.
correctly? Yeah.
but I think between you and Lisa, you can hammer out the details. Like, feel that train go through?
So you're making the motion and I'll second it,
I'm making the motion. How much you want to make it?
$5,000,
Okay,
is that right?
What's your motion, Greg?
my motion is to expend up to $5,000 with Tim Gerard to answer 4 questions.
We had 3 the first time, now it's all
Yeah,
Well, she added one.
I did.
What else should we be looking at, yeah?
Yeah, what do you
What else should we be looking
recommend
at?
further?
The open ended.
Yeah. It could cost a lot of money.
well, we have a motion and a second.
I guess you got the questions written down, or Lisa.
Well, I'm sure glad I'm not the chairman anymore. You figure out what I'm operating, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Chris, as the chair, we had your back,
I know that.
so
We have yours.
we're gonna have your back.
And I appreciate that. I personally believe that we gotta do things correctly, and we don't even know if we are. And this is.
Well, we can't drag our feet. I mean, I know we're waiting we can't get it done right now, but, we need to look over the next 9 months to a year to
Yeah.
get it done. So we need to make sure we're doing it right. Well, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you for remembering, Greg.
We've got an interesting meeting today, but let's see whether we can't get out to our affiliated partners. What do we have on our list here? City of Tonganoxie, George?
Oh, man, I thought I was gonna go last, so you caught me with a mouthful of lunch there, so sorry about that. A couple quick updates. Harlan Russell had asked if they could highlight the Tonganoxie Business Park in a promotional marketing video that GBA is doing on some of their top projects they've worked on. And so they had a video crew at the business park this morning, and believe it or not, it was sunny and they got some great shots. And if any of you haven't been by the business park, I just encourage you to take a drive by. The scale, you're starting to really get a sense of that with Hills and, 400,000 square feet operational DSM and their plant, all the steel's in place, and they're really starting to do the walls of the building, and it gives you a true sense of what's happening there. And so again, we're very appreciative to GBA for picking that project as one of the few they're going to highlight. Additional development activity occurring with the Roush Coleman housing project. Again, that's going to end up being 142 single family homes. Got a lot of the mass grading is done. I believe the sanitary sewer infrastructure is in place, and now they're switching to their stormwater infrastructure. And so I'm sure the adjacent neighborhoods are going to be happy about that. We had a pretty wet spring run here, and so folks get very concerned when they see stormwater functioning the way it's supposed to for the first time in a while. One of the big projects we have going, and I wish I had a better update on this, is we continue to struggle to get the county to approve some voluntary annexations. Specifically, we have 2 property owners that are wanting to annex about 80 acres directly across the street from the Tonganoxie Business Park. One is for clearly obvious reasons. It's Evergy to build a substation. The other is includes a large 50-acre tract that's directly, literally across from the entrance to the business park. And we're just really struggling to get the county to approve that annexation. We have to go through the county because they consider it an island annexation, because that's what the business park was years ago. And I think over the course of the months, we're just kind of coming down to not being on the city and the county not being on the same page of who needs to bear and what are the equitable shares of improving 222nd Street, which is going to be about a $2.7 million project. And obviously, I can only speak to protecting the interest of the city of Tonganoxie taxpayers, but we've really worked hard at the city over the years to cut budgets, to keep budgets low, reduce. And last year we reduced the mill levy by 4 mills, and it's just a struggle. And like I said, when we talk to the county, the county is the second largest taxing entity within the city of Tonganoxie tax district. And again, not trying to air any dirty laundry. It's just, I would assume we're all working towards the same goal, and it shouldn't take 2 Leavenworth County property owners who want to annex their property 8 or 9 months to get that done because the county and the city aren't on the same page. But with that, I'll go back to my lunch. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, George. I'm just going down the list that was handed to me here. How about the city of Leavenworth? Penny's on, or anybody else?
Good afternoon. Couple updates. The city of Leavenworth is applying for a TA grant to implement ADA accessible ramps in the downtown. Roughly that would be a $600,000 grant request. So the city commission did approve us pursuing that. So we're hoping that would be some infrastructure improvements in our downtown. I did recently sit on a regular call with staff from the VA hospital and the congressional delegation, the staffing, and it was interesting to hear some of their feedback regarding VA services. As we know, this is a heavy veteran area here in Leavenworth. So it was interesting to hear them say that while they don't see a lot of changes for our current Leavenworth hospital, they did remark that the fastest growing area in the state based on requests from veterans has been the Manhattan Junction City area. So they've seen a lot of growth and are developing some new clinics over there to account for some of that. So Leavenworth is in good shape, but there's also been some growth a little more west of us. And then let me get my notes. The city, it's a lunch meeting, so hopefully George won't be made hungry by this, but everyone else might. The city opened up a food truck pilot program for parking in the downtown. That opened on May 1st. So that means that the city is accepting applications from sponsoring downtown businesses. If they would like to have an event and have a food truck, get some parking spaces on the city right of way, they can apply for that program. It's a 6-month pilot program. So we're gonna get some data and see how that program goes. And then we do have a existing grant program for business property in the city of Leavenworth. We've had it available now for the last couple of years. It's an ARPA-funded grant program, and it's only for ADA accessibility improvements or for the addition of sprinkler system, so a fire suppression system. Those grants are up to $30,000, not residential, only business. And that program sunsets at the end of this year. So just want to, every chance I get, share that that program is still available. I still have funds. So if anyone's interested, please have them reach out to the city of Leavenworth. Those are my updates.
Thank you very much, Penny. Appreciate it. Anybody got any questions for Penny? Okay, move down. Ms. Cobb, are you still there?
No.
Okay. City of Lansing?
Hey, that's me. So let's see what, we've got the sewer project to McIntyre. We are well ahead of schedule. We should be wrapping that up in the next month or two. You will see a lot of dirt being moved from the Mary and K Street intersection where the apartment complex is going up. They're gonna be taking their dirt from that area down to Line Weavers on Gilman, so we see a lot of dirt being moved. A lot of dirt has already been moved at the pool site on Mary and Bittersweet. We're excited about all of those projects. Last week, the city council took a fairly massive step and removed the parking requirements within the entire city for residential, commercial, and industrial developments. So you will be able to provide as much parking or as little parking as you want as a business owner. So there's that, and I'm tired of seeing wasted parking lots. And so, anyway, that's what it is, and that's what's going on. We have got a lot of, hopefully we can bring some stuff to light over the next couple of months, where we've got a lot of conversations going right now. That'll be good, so.
Well, that sewer project is moving at the speed of light, despite the weather. It's incredible to watch them every day.
Yeah, they're doing great work. We always appreciate working with them, and they're doing good work and getting things done, so.
Thank you very much. And let's see, City Baser, how about Crystal? Or Vernon?
No, Crystal.
Yeah.
You're on,
Vernon.
you're on, Crystal.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, hi, thank you. Sorry, Vernon, I thought you maybe wanted to go to take this time. So we've got quite a bit going on. The 155th Street project is moving right along. We're really happy with that progress. It's moving right on schedule. 158th and Parallel is also moving along really well. The trails that are being put in at Tomahawk Park and at Civic Campus are also moving incredibly rapidly. If you come to the city of Baser, expect detours. It's kind of tough right now, but it's going to be worth it for sure. We also submitted an application to the TA program for a trail that we call Coralberry Crossing. That's about 3/4 of a mile long that would connect our Hidden Ridge subdivision, which is 166th in state, to essentially the Baser Early Learning Center, Civic Campus area. Our application was for $2.2 million. We also submitted that same project along with an additional project for trails at the property known as Baser Town Center to Mid-America Regional Council for the sub-allocated funding phase 1. And we're really happy to say that both of those projects came back as highly aligned. So we're really excited about phase 2, the technical application, and we're prepared to submit something really strong. I think I talked about this last time, maybe we did receive 142-ish lot subdivision request for that Baser Town Center, which, as you all are probably tired of hearing me talk about, is the 300 and some odd acres of land that we have established a TIF district on that we have very big plans for. But so that's moving along pretty well. And I think that's maybe about it, unless Vernon, I missed anything, in which case, please correct me. Thank you.
You know, since I haven't been at City Hall and talking to people much lately, I think you did your magnificent job as usual.
Anybody else out there would like to join the conversation? Did I miss somebody? Okay, I appreciate it. We went a little over time. Sorry for keeping you guys a little late here today. Interrupt anybody's lunch, but, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Session 5 minutes over, you are now chairman for life.
I didn't go to the bathroom. You can't swing that.
Yes.